In part 1, I talked about the basics of making up your mind and why you might find that practice helpful. In part 2, I'll present the insights to developing your intuition further. So first, I'll lay down the basics. This isn't about getting your way. Making up your mind isn't about getting your way. While it might work out that way sometimes, it isn't about that. It's actually about stopping that internal thought process and debate. Trusting this process and developing this skill. Know that a deeper understanding about this nuance will become ingrained into your experience and your understanding as you continue this process for yourself. You will get better with this each time. At first, it might be rough around the edges, and that's expected. As with all aspects of personal and spiritual development, trust the process and know that you will refine this further and further with every attempt you make. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You might also find you take a step back. Well, know that this is also part of that process. You don't have to yet quite know what it is you really want, and you only think you know right now. So as always, trust your process and continue to participate in this skill building as you are able to. Take this at your own unique pace. It isn't all or none, and with any aspect of spiritual practice, it isn't that way. And you can forget to do this at any time, at any day. You can take a break by choice, or you can go for as long as it feels good for you. The greater guidance that I offer is to take it easy when you begin to feel overwhelmed with any skill development. Growth only occurs when we press up against our boundaries and let's say about a 25% gap of limit, and that's where the pressure is, right there. It isn't painful or threatening. Remember this, going right up against or beyond your limit, that's where you no longer benefit from your efforts. So exhibit patience and please take it easy on yourself as you continue your practices and skill development. I believe you will find greater success following this advice. I know I have. And lastly, this is a multi-layer process that you might find you have a strength in one area more than another. And the reason to strengthen the other areas is that information that each skill has is quite different than the others. Each area has its own strength of awareness, and they each support one another. By balancing the use of these areas when accessing this intuitive information, you not only provide a greater balance of information, but you also provide a balance to your experience. This is very important if you wish to continue to achieve greater heights of spiritual awareness. Now, on to refining and getting to your intuition. So I've ordered these based upon how they seem to arrive in our experience, and it also seems to be an order that seems to be the easiest to access them through. So the first is the physical layer. These are actual felt experiences in the body. Simple as that. This can be tightness in an area or a sense of warmth or tingling in another. These sensations you feel are practically unlimited. And I personally was surprised when I began to become more aware of the energy movement in my body. And while I only became aware after a good amount of practice, I've arrived at this point where I'm much more aware of that experience and what information it has for me. I will say though, that I could not have imagined how wonderful it is to have strengthened this physical sensation skill. Meditation is very helpful in the physical experience access point. Because we can induce many symptoms through our own thoughts, being able to focus is an immeasurable skill that's strengthened greatly through meditation. I do provide a disclaimer though, that while many physical sensations can be guiding spiritually, please be mindful of your current state of health and your state of well-being. Many physical signals can seem like something is wrong when there isn't, but can also be a signal that you need to pay attention to your body. Getting a health checkup might be helpful to your state of mind during the skill building. This is why taking good care of your body is so important on a spiritual journey. It helps reduce the probability that something might seriously be wrong, and also it helps you stay focused during your practices. The emotional layer This is a bit different from just the feeling of our emotions. We all do that every day without thought or effort. This is actually a practice and an approach of mindful observation of your emotional state. How we feel emotionally in any given moment is incredibly important information to harnessing the true power and strength of our intuition. It is related to our physical experience in this body, but it's perhaps a bit deeper. All of these layers build on and support each other, and so emotions have a depth that's all their own. This is not a practice if you're not skilled at it. Just approach it as gently as possible and just observe the surface of it if that's all you can do. All you're looking for is an emotion that you can actually identify to some extent. Could be sadness, happiness, anger, frustration. You're just looking for a basic notion of what it is that you feel emotionally in that moment. The practice is simply to take a moment to be open to what it is that you feel in any given time. And it's not to analyze, not to criticize, and not to just completely ignore. Just simply to see and observe. Meditation, again, is immeasurably helpful in regard to this skill. Being able to use the skill of gentle focus on your experience, you can more clearly see and identify these emotions as they come into your experience and into your awareness. The mental layer. Thoughts are as important as other skills of building your intuition. And if you notice, this is the third on the list of layers. It's because it's not a primary or a solitary skill that takes care of all the rest, but it is the information provided through observation of this experience that's also incredibly valuable. To engage the mental skill is to observe what thoughts arise. These thoughts might be a reaction to a physical sensation you noticed or an emotion that you've observed rising up. Thoughts are just like emotions. They come and they go. And it's only when we try to analyze them and try to pick at them that we can run into trouble. I personally know this is one of my more well-developed skills. While analyzing can be quite beneficial at times, and I've most certainly found it to be so, when it comes to strengthening these skills, I do suggest a simple observation and noticing of thoughts to be much more helpful. Reserve analyzing for data and facts that are directly in front of you, okay? The spiritual layer. Well, this is the most abstract of all the skills. This is a bit harder to describe as we all have a different way of relating to what is spiritual for us. I consider this to be the experience of that which is greater than me. It's not quite, I don't see it as something that's outside of myself, but it's, I guess, what gives me a meaning to life. Not necessarily religion, and it's really a greater sense of knowing, in my experience. And to strengthen this skill is to simply engage in it. It's being in nature, it's making art, being in the experience of making art or making something. It could be anything. Meditation is a wonderful access point for this for me sometimes. And it varies by each person, varies by each moment. But the one way that I'll say I know I've linked into it, I feel a sense of beauty, undescribable beauty, a sense of wonder. And there's even a kind of shiver or tingle in my body. See, the physical skill comes in handy. That shiver and tingle feels like everything is perfect and just as it needs to be. Now, while that feeling does fade, as all these skills will show, nothing is permanent. But in that is the beauty. Knowing how to be fully aware in this present moment is where the secret to the universe and all knowledge lies. The environmental observation layer. Observing your environment is actually a skill to be strengthened. Being present in this moment is really what you're doing. But it's a way of focusing the skill and observing where you are physically in this space. In this moment, as you watch this, where are you standing or sitting right now? Take a moment to really feel this moment and really feel your body and the space you're in. What do you notice? The temperature of the air, the sounds you hear, the way the seat under you feels, the clothes on your body. Every piece of information you pick up from your surroundings is information that's useful to strengthening this skill. And final guidance. So that's actually quite a lot of information. And if you observe all of these and work to strengthen each skill that I've mentioned, you will notice that a wonderful shift begins to happen in your everyday experience. So take each skill and each progress that you make with a gentle approach, please. As I've learned, to try and force any of them will cause them to just evade your awareness more skillfully. To force any effort is to overuse the conscious mind. And while you're working to develop this balance is the ability to see with your conscious mind and your subconscious mind actively, to be able to engage with both sides of this part of your experience. The subconscious doesn't respond well to force or pressure, so please remember that. And I do suggest that you take it easy with each of these, as I have mentioned. Do them as you notice them. And if you happen to notice a physical sensation, let's say, okay, take a moment to stop and observe it, pause, that fades. And a while later, you might notice you feel pissed after you read a text or get a phone call. Just observe. No need to act out that emotion. And if at any time, any part of the skill building feels overwhelming to you, I suggest taking a walk outside. Just get up, move around, or at the very, very least, just do some centering breathing exercises. No part of these efforts needs to be pushed to its limit of your abilities to tolerate it. And when you feel any kind of uncomfortable pressure, just take a break. Do something else. Read a book. Do anything else. This will take many steps to get better at, and going at it full force does nothing other than cause you pain and discomfort. Pushing too hard can impede your progress. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to your comments on this subject. I offer what I know and experience myself and hope that it might help you on your journey. Many blessings to you. May you be free from struggle, find ease in the challenges you face, and have peace and joy in your life. Thank you for being here, a truly spiritual being.